Good day. This is our continuation of the discussions involving target costing and cost analysis for pricing decisions. This is basically part two or second part of the series. Now, last time we have discussed about the environment as to how do we determine the price. In terms of environment, we mentioned about the factors, the four factors that would have impact on making decisions about prices and also about the economic pricing model as well as the target pricing model. And now we will continue with our discussion, so please bear with me. This is again the continuation of the pricing models. So we are going to determine the price based on markup. And then the markup is actually the return on investment. So the task here is to solve for the markup percentage that will yield the desired return on investment. All right, so here's an example. We have to recall that in the part one, we computed the markup on variable manufacturing cost as the amount of the markup divided by the, of course, cost. So example, in this particular sample of pricing in which that is variable manufacturing cost as basis, and we have to compute the markup percentage. So remember, if this is the price, $925, we just have to deduct that with the cost. And then cost here is the variable manufacturing cost. So if we deduct that, that would result to 525. So which means that the markup is 525. Markup is cost and then what amount that is added on the cost to equate to the price. So 525 divided by 400 is 131.25%. So you can notice here that because the basis, which is variable manufacturing cost, is lower or lesser, and that is the reason that the markup percentage is, of course, higher than 100%. So we also have to recall, guys, that the price, whatever is the basis, would be equal to $925. It's a matter of how much is the basis for the cost and how much is the markup and then the markup percentage. So that's why a lot of authors would then say that actually to compute the price, that would be the cost, which is the basis, plus the non-cost basis, plus the markup equals the price. So I hope that is clear then. And let's solve for the markup. So in this case, it is again 131.25%. And then there are details. Invested capital is $200,000. The desired ROI is 20%. And annual sales volume is 480 units. So I think this is a problem. So for us to be able to determine the markup using the ROI pricing, step one is to solve for the income that will result in an ROI of 20%. So remember, we want here ROI of 20%. We have the capital. And then sales volume is 480 units. So we want actually the income to be 20% of the invested capital. So in that case, that is $300,000 times 20%, that is 60,000. Or what number will be divided by 300,000 to equate to 20%? All right, and this is the formula, by the way, of return on investment, just to highlight. Next, we also have to determine the markup. So this is the return on investment pricing still. Step two is to recall the unit cost information below. Solve for the unit sales price necessary to result in an income of 60,000. It seemed that at this point in time, you are looking for the price that would equate to this particular case. And then here are the costs, by the way, cost items. So To solve for the unit sales price necessary to result in an income of 60,000, that would be the amount of the profit plus the total cost. So if you are going to look into here, so that's 800 times certain number of units, that is 480, and then 60,000 also will be added to that. So how much that is, we have to use our calculators to get that. All right, so if we multiply 800 by 480, actually we will get 384,000, 384 in thousands, of course, plus 60,000, that would equal to 384,000 plus 60,000, that is 444,000. Divided by 480 units equals 925 pesos, which is actually the given. So you can see that here though with a formula, because actually to get the profit, that is also the revenues minus the costs, right? So if we do this analysis, like whatever is the unit sales price minus the unit cost equals the per unit profit. So this can also be used as the analysis. Then we simplify and we will get also 925. This is 125 per unit plus 800 equals 925. So this is also a good way or method to do this. And this analysis is coming from this one also. Remember, to get the profit, that is 480 units times the unit profit margin. So that is $125. Then you have here 480 units. And the difference between unit sales price and the unit cost again is the unit profit margin. And you now simplify the said formula. This is very algebraic and mathematical, so you know these things. Then step 3, compute the markup percentage on the $400 variable manufacturing cost. So I think I've said this already, guys, as to how do we compute this one. So simply the difference between the sales price and the cost basis, which is variable cost for this case, is 525 divided by 400, that is 131.25%. All right, so that's how we got the percentage. And actually, I've discussed that already in part 1, and I was quite advanced. To continue learning objective 4, we have certain issues about long-term, which is strategic pricing of new products. Well, if we think of new products, we have to take note that there could be uncertainties about the profits that we will get, and then also the cost could be very big initially. So that's why profits could be at stake and losses are expected. Also, there would be uncertainties as to pricing, and that would make pricing difficult to do. Again, could be more production costs plus the other costs considered, and the market acceptance or acceptability. Will the public or general public or targeted customers or consumers accept the new products introduced to the market? And what if there are like strong competitive or competing products? So in that sense, there could be some concerns about market acceptance. Good thing if, for example, the company is that established already, so that's why this wouldn't be much of a concern. Then pricing strategies could be divided into 2, although there can be more. Skimming, from the word skim, is to set it at a high price, and then later on, the price could be lower in order to appeal to a broader market. So what is the point of this? Initially, it seemed that with the high price, you wouldn't be getting the market. That's the point, because we want it to be high and later on we want it to be low so that more people would be attracted to that. And then also the point of this one is for us to like show that there are discounts involved, or there could be some privileges, we would say that, in order to have lower prices or quantity discounts or trade discounts if this is like accounting for merchandising operations. So that is price skimming or skimming. Market penetration is when you penetrate the market. So for you to be able to get a market share, you have to set the price low, get there, and then that is to have the market share. And later on, prices could be increasing or could be increased later on, gradually or slowly, depending on the case. Although there is also that pricing strategy known as predatory pricing, which is not advised, not ethical, because that is really setting the price very low so that more and more consumers or customers or buyers will be attracted to the products. But then this would kill the competition because only those who really are stable can sustain the competition or can compete with such market predators setting very low prices. All right. So that's for learning objective 4. Then for the 5th learning objective, this is now about target costing, in which we have already discussed a while ago that we are going to set costs and then we are going to add markup, and that will be the price. Or in our discussions a while ago, we will set the price, we want a markup, and then we are going to target the cost that should be there. So market research determines the price at which a new product will sell. Then we are going to have the costing afterwards so that we'll have acceptable profit margin from the research of the price, market research, the cost. And then engineers and cost analysts design a product that can be made for the allowable costs. All right. So going back, we have this particular illustration then. So for target costing, these are the key principles. Price-led costing, so the price would lead or would dictate or would guide the costing process. We take a look at the life cycle of a product or the products. We think of 4 stages normally. We have introduction or introductory stage or phase. We have the growth. We have the maturity or saturation. And then after that is decline. So those are the 4 stages. Then we also take a look into the process design as to how the processes are being made and in what ways they can really be made so that it will be cost efficient and effective for the company. Then also cross-functional, we think of different departments. A while ago, we mentioned about the marketing research or the research department, research and development. We mentioned about our accountants for the costing, as well as the engineers and the systems costing, of course, costing systems analysts. So in the illustration a while ago, value chain orientation. So this means that we think of the different costs involved in the production of products, as well as the other costs like the research and development cost will now be incorporated under contemporary costing, then the traditional product cost, also the distribution cost, and even the warranty, the post-sale service cost. Also, we focus on how do we design our products so that our products will be of quality. The last one, I cannot see that clearly, but we have to focus on the customer because customer is the king. Right. So to continue, learning objective 6, what is the role of activity-based costing in setting a target cost? Remember, in our discussions about ABM and ABC, we said that ABC, of course, is the technique of determining the cost based on certain cost drivers and activities. And we will be able to determine the unit cost per driver on the factory overhead. So remember, activity-based costing is focused on the overhead costs. And then management is, of course, the philosophy or the perspective about being able to really produce the costs that would be capturing the essence of the incurrence of the cost of certain products. So what really drove the costing and the incurrence of those costs? That's activity-based management along with the just-in-time philosophy, among others. So we think of the processes of production and the activities then, because we are going to allocate based on these activities. All right. Learning objective 7 will focus about the distortion of the products. I like this illustration and topic because this will connect economics and other things. So let me just mention or emphasize to you about the concept that is peanut butter costing. So remember guys, if for example we have bread, if the bread is small with the same amount of peanut butter having a small area, if we place the peanut butter there, of course, the peanut butter would be thicker compared with a big slice of bread, big size, and we spread the same amount of peanut butter, it will be spread out to more area with thinner application. So that is peanut butter costing system. And that is the point of activity-based costing system, wherein if there will be high volume of products, the cost would have been lesser. If there would be, of course, low volume products, then the cost would have been higher, right? That's the point of the peanut butter costing system analysis. And I hope that is clear. However, if we think of the traditional, well, going back to the peanut butter costing system or activity-based before we go to traditional, in peanut butter costing system or activity-based costing system, that is actually an application of economies of scale. Remember, with the same amount of cost and we have more production, the cost per unit would have been lesser. Just like again, when we ride on a truck or a vehicle and we pay the same amount, if there's only one, that would be very heavy. But if there would be like 2 or 3 or more of you considering the capacity of the van or truck or vehicle, then the cost would have been lesser. So that is economies of scale application, which can be connected. But for the traditional, it would be the reverse. So for example, if there would be high volume products, the cost would be higher. So that's why it is over costed. If there would be low volume products, then we expect that they would have lower costs. That's why they're under costed. And that would distort the costing system. So it will make the cost misapplied and misstated. So we expect also that when we add the margin and we get the price is also unfair and misstated. So this is the point of the product cost distortion because we are not using activity-based costing system. If you forgot the computations, you can go back to our discussions, 2 parts for such. Then learning objective 8. So we also have the value engineering and target costing. As we said, for target costing, we are going to determine the price and then we are going to target the cost. So with acceptable profit margin, and the engineers and the analysts, cost analysts and the designers would be designing the system of production processes and the products, of course, involved so that we'll have the targeted cost. And this would focus on value-added activities wherein these activities would create or add additional value or profits for the company. We reduce the cost, we design and make the process and should be geared towards continuous improvement or Kaizen so that such would again be beneficial to the company as a whole and would generate more profits. Then learning objective 9. So we have the time and material pricing. So price is basically the sum of all the labor and the material charges. And to be more complete in this sense or just complete, well, Price is the, of course, sum of all the costs involved plus the margin, applicable markup. And then if you are going to make use of this sense, though, time and material pricing, just the labor and material, this is used by construction companies, printers, and professional service firms or service-oriented organizations. But again, I'm pretty sure markup is here somewhere to be added. So we have here, though, as the basis, the cost. So time charges would be the hourly labor cost plus the overhead cost per labor hour plus the profit margin times the total labor hours required. For sure, that's going to get really the price of the labor. So that would be a good basis then, because we have the cost here plus the profit margin in hours though. So time is the basis. But for materials, we have the material cost incurred plus the overhead. So overhead will consist of the direct labor and the overhead, and well, this is enclosed in parentheses. So overhead per dollar of material cost times the total material cost. So the total overhead per material. So composed of direct labor and factory overhead, if we add, that would get the total price for the materials. And then learning objective 10, this is about bidding. In bidding, actually, that is if, for example, there would be certain project, and then we will be looking for whoever can provide the lowest cost for the construction. So we are going to pay the least cost then for our project. So that's on the part of the cost. But if it is on the part of the price, so we are the seller, that was on the buyer, so the lowest amount. But in the part of the seller, we are looking for the highest price, whoever can provide us the highest price. If high bid price, low probability of winning the bid. So the question is, why is that? My analysis here is that if you have the high bid price and you are the winning bid, so you got the bid, you're the winner, you get the high profit. But if you have the low bid price and you have the winning bid, so this is on the part of the seller, I suppose, because we are on the part of pricing. So this is all about revenues. So if the seller, which is the winner here, got the low bid price, so there is low profit. And then on the other hand, for the probability, there is low probability for the winning bid for the seller for the high bid price. So it's quite challenging to get the high bid price. And then there is the high probability for the seller to get the low bid price. So this is the point of competitive bidding. Anyhow, the guidelines would be if there is an excess capacity, so we think of the idle or unused capacity, we get the low bid price or the lowest bid price available, and that would be normally composed of the incremental or variable costs then, including avoidable or we would say the relevant costs. Then any bid price in excess of incremental costs will contribute to fixed cost and the profit. Because of course, the bid price is normally the variable cost. So other than variable cost, what would be there? The fixed cost and the profit. Whereas if there's no excess capacity, the highest bid price or the high bid price should be there, and the bid price should be full cost plus normal profit margin as winning bid, so that we would be able to really get the profit that is needed and the price that is needed, which is the highest. And that will displace existing work. All right. Then learning objective 11, what are the legal restrictions on setting prices? As discussed a while ago, I've mentioned about predatory pricing wherein we set the prices very low so that our respective competitors would not be able to compete to us healthily. So in that case, and friendly. In that case, that is actually supposedly to be regulated though. So that's why we have in the Philippines the Department of Trade and Industry to regulate the pricing of products. And then also no to price discrimination. So example, prices for the others could be very discriminating, like related to the predatory pricing, very low, so that others can no longer recover in the process. Good for those who are established companies who can really sustain having low prices. All right. So the bottom line or the question is, what is the right price? So the right price really is the price that follows the concepts that we have learned, whatever would be the basis, and then it is right because it follows the ethical principles. It is right because it is showing the necessary details and computations, and it is something that is competitive in the market. It does not destroy the competition, rather the competition is not destroyed. And then users or consumers are also protected in the process so that they are not being misled, let's say, by the companies. And also, like, the price is something that is based on the right practices. So when I say right practices, we talk again about ethics and the relevant laws that are to be used or utilized in the process. All right. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you learned something from this session. Thank you very much, and God bless.